Hi good people, this will be part 5 of our Frogger mini-series, and in this video we'll create the logic that will drive the moving objects in this prototype. Let's not waste any time and just jump right into it. Alright, we're going to open up our content drawer, come to our blueprints folder, we're going to right click and we're going to create a new blueprint class. We're going to use the type actor, and let's give it a name of BP underscore moving objects. This is going to be a parent class we create that will basically drive logic for the cars, the logs, the turtles, what have you. So double click, that should open up in our window here. We got to add a few different components. The primary component we need is something called interp to movement. Interp stands for interpolation. Typically you'll see this with sprites, but you can also do it with static meshes. It basically means you're moving, some sprite or some static mesh across some distance over some set amount of time. So it's a fantastic built-in script for Unreal Engine, so you don't have to code this in, you can just use it, and it kind of saves you a little bit of time. In the details panel on the right, you can set things like the duration. The control points are basically the positions the static mesh or the sprite will move to or come from. And then you have your behavior type, which is like if the object will move there and basically done, or ping pong, which is back and forth, or loop reset, where it basically teleports. For this project, we're going to use the loop reset because that makes the most sense for us. But let's go ahead and finish setting up the components. So we're going to add another component. This one will be a box collision. We can just call it box, that's fine. And then the last thing I like to add is a arrow, so I can kind of get some directionality. The arrow is hidden in game, so you don't have to worry about it. It just makes it easier when you're placing and moving things. So the primary, majority or the bulk of the work we're going to be doing is going to be in the construction script. So you have these tabs at the top here. Typically we're in the event graph, but today we're going to be doing a little bit of work in the construction script. So we'll head here, then we're going to grab our interpolation to movement. It'll automatically pull a getter. And then off that getter, we can then target all the parameters that I was showing you earlier. So the first one we want to do is set behavior type. And again, these parameters, if we select interp, are basically items in the right-hand panel here that you can see. So we're only going to be targeting 3. One of them is the behavior type. The other one, we'll duplicate that with Control D, is going to be the set duration, and that's basically the amount of time it takes for the object to move to one of the control points. And last but not least, we will duplicate the interp to movement again, pull off, and we are going to set the control points. The control points is an array. An array is basically like a group of objects. So this is like a singular object, or these two are singular objects. This is a group of objects. So there, for the control points, you can basically just have 1, 2, or many, however many you want. For this project, we're of course just going to be using 2 because our moving objects typically start from one side of the screen and they end up on the other side of the screen. So pretty simple. Now that we've created this setup, we do need to be able to set these variables in editor. So the way we can do that is we can right click on the pin and we can promote them to a variable. I think the default names they come with are descriptive enough, so I'm going to leave them. And I'm just going to right click and just promote all of these to a variable. And then in the left hand side, I'm going to click the little eyeball to publicly expose them so I can set them in the actual editor. So now that we have that, we'll want to set up the death code for our player, so we can actually call that. So basically when the moving object, well, not every single moving object, but primarily the vehicles, when they hit the player, we want to be able to call some death state. So in the blueprint, we're going to go to the event graph, and that's where this box collision comes in handy. So I'm going to select that in the components tree so it's highlighted, and then I can right click. As long as you have the context sensitive checked, you'll have an add event for the box. I'm going to drill down into collision. There's many different ways you can handle collision. You can do a hit event, which is like a physical contact method where basically something bounces off the object, it does something. But for this, we're going to do a overlap event. So there's going to be no collision. The objects are going to go through each other, but when that happens, it'll trigger some code. So I'm going to do add on component begin overlap, and then I'm going to simply cast to the player, and then I can pass the other actor into the object field. So basically this is checking what has overlapped with this little box collider. If it happens to be the player, then it's going to be able to execute this code here. If it's not, we can do something else. But basically we're going to come into a branch check. So you can hold B, click in the graph, or just right click and search for branch. And then we need some condition, and once we have that condition evaluates to true, we will execute some piece of code. The code we want to execute is called death, but we cannot find it because it doesn't exist because we haven't written it yet. So let's do that real quick. We're going to open up our content drawer. Let's go into the player object here, and this is where we left off in the last vid. We're going to right click and create a custom event called death, or whatever you want to name, doesn't matter. And then what I want to do is I want to do some check, and then I want to basically, we'll make it simple. We'll just print a string called you died, or something, doesn't matter. And then I want to do something else. What we can use to evaluate the branch condition is a variable on the player called isDead. We can basically pull that out and then pull off this and do a not boolean to reverse it. So if the player is not dead, then I want to hold the Alt key, drag in isDead to get a setter, and I'm going to set the variable to true, and then I'm going to print a string saying you died. Now that we have this death event created, we can go back to our BP moving objects blueprint, and then as the player we can get isDead, and then we can check if the player is not to reverse it. Pass that in over here, so we're doing a double check just to make sure. Sometimes you get weird timings and things can happen, so just making sure it doesn't fire. And then we can simply, as the player, call death. And you do have to pull off as the player, because you'll notice if I pull off the true pin, search for death, this only checks to this local blueprint. So make sure you pull off the blue pin, and then you can reference all the stuff that comes in the player blueprint. Hopefully that made sense. All right, so we'll hook this up over here. Okay, so now we have some death event and some death code. So let's go back to our level. Now I'll show you the magic of making a blueprint class. We don't want to use this parent class. We simply want to right click and create a child blueprint class of it. We'll call this one Cadillac, BP underscore Cadillac. I think we'll create a couple cars, a truck, we'll do some logs, we'll do turtles. So we're basically going to create child objects kind of the same way. And I think keeping things quick and simple on this one, we will simply add in a cube. And remember, well, let's actually just leave it like this. So we'll compile and save. There's going to be an issue with it, but that's okay. I'll drag this in over here. Now remember, we haven't done any code on this at all. But you'll notice on the right-hand side, I can set the behavior type. I'm going to do loop reset. I can set the duration, 5 seconds, and I can add some control points. I want that second control point. I'm going to move it along the Y, maybe right about there. And then I can simply grab that little diamond and move it over here. And then if I play the scene, you can see our object moves to the control point, and then it resets and goes over there. You'll notice it did trigger the you died, but there is a bit of collision happening. I'm actually surprised it triggered. I figured the thing would be too small. But it looks like it still got it anyways. We're gonna select the static mesh, and if we search for collision, this one we just want to set it to overlap all. And that way, what we can do now is we'll put this over here. We'll add another one right here, and then we'll add another one over here. Drag this over here, press E to go in rotation mode, rotate 180 degrees, and then W to go to translation. We'll move the control points different distances, and then we can select the different objects and we can set different times. So maybe we do 2 seconds there, and maybe we do 10 seconds there. And you have the beginnings of your Frogger prototype. So we'll basically do this with multiple cars and objects, and we'll be able to move them around and kind of reset them. But all right, everyone, we'll cut the video here to keep it kind of short. And the next one, I'm going to show you a pretty cool trick to make placing static meshes a little bit easier. But as always, thanks for watching, consider subscribing, and we'll see you on the next one.